Hello and welcome to Cocoa Pods, a podcast of the Birth Center for Natural Deliveries Foundation. My name is Dr. Bola Sogade. I'm the host of this public podcast. In our upcoming episode, we will be talking to Chef Patria Cunningham. Chef Patria Cunningham Barrett is from Detroit, Michigan. She's been a chef for over 30 years. She has 3 degrees, an AAS Culinary Art, Bachelor in Nutrition, Masters in Health Education. Currently, she is a CTAE culinary instructor at the DeKalb County Schools. She's a wife, she's a mother, and she's a grandmother. One of the questions we'll be asking her is, why is diet important during pregnancy for a woman and her baby? And we talked about the fact that diet will be replaced, that word will be replaced by a healthy eating plan. And during pregnancy, this is important because what a woman eats helps to support her own well-being and supplies the nutrition to her baby to help the baby develop and grow. In the 9 months, it's better for a pregnant mother to err on the side of caution, to keep herself and her little one healthy. And in doing so, she may have to make a lot of sacrifices as she will be responsible for another human being. As a general guide, pregnant mothers need to eat a healthy diet. But then Chef Patria has encouraged us to replace the word diet with a healthy eating plan. Pregnant mothers need to eat foods that are high in nutrients, low in sugar, salt, and saturated fat. It's normal for a pregnant mother to gain weight. However, gaining too much or too little weight can increase risk of complications for the mother and for her baby. Healthy weight gain depends on a mother's weight before pregnancy. Evidence supports using BMI, that is body mass index, as a guide for how much weight gain is recommended during pregnancy. A well-balanced diet is usually enough, or a well-balanced healthy eating plan is usually enough to meet a mother's nutritional needs during pregnancy. However, some foods contain higher concentrations of certain nutrients which are specifically recommended during pregnancy. Folate, iron, iodine, and vitamin D are nutrients needed to support a growing baby's health and development and can prevent certain conditions. If you are planning a pregnancy, you should start taking a folic acid supplement at least 1 month before you fall pregnant and for 3 months after conception. Folic acid supplements have been proven to help protect against neural tube defects in the baby. If you are considering taking or currently taking any supplements, always discuss this with your doctor or your midwife, as doses can vary depending on your individual circumstance. So what is a balanced diet? That is, per Chef Patria, I mean to say, what is a healthy eating plan? A healthy, balanced eating plan includes a wide variety of nutritious foods from the 5 food groups. It's also advisable to drink plenty of water to stay hydrated. The 5 food groups include whole grains and cereals, vegetables and legumes, beans, lean meats and poultry, fish, eggs, tofu, nuts, and seeds, fruit, dairy foods, including mostly reduced fat milk, cheese, and yogurt. Most of us have days when we eat well and days where our intake of quote unquote treat foods may be higher. Pregnancy cravings can also make this harder to manage, especially when they are foods for which are high in sugar, salt, or fat. If you're suffering from morning sickness or severe vomiting during pregnancy, it's important to let your doctor and your midwife know and help. With Chef Patria, we talked about food safety and preparation and the fact that food poisoning is common. And problems with food poisoning can range from tummy upset and vomiting to more serious food poisoning and diseases like hepatitis A. And we talked about how to minimize the risks. Also, Chef Patria talked about how we can better care for our food. Some bacteria and viruses and their toxins can give a woman food poisoning. So we need to take care with all our food. She talked about the fact that foods that smell off as slimy or have gone moldy should not be eaten at all. Some foods that cause food poisoning appear normal, so it's important to prevent foods from getting contaminated in the first place. Chef Patria also talked to us about how best to shop for what we eat. We talked about shopping for chilled or frozen foods last. She talked about the way a grocery store is set up to help. She also talked about taking an insulated container for meat, dairy products, and chilled or frozen food. She recommended putting cold foods in the refrigerator immediately, putting raw meat on the lowest level so the juices don't drip onto other foods. Then we asked Chef Patria, what tips as master chef would you give a pregnant woman in preparing their food? She talked about defrosting chicken or meat overnight in the fridge. And if you're in a hurry, thaw meat in the microwave. Wash your hands with soap and water before preparing food. She talks about even when her own mother helps her in the kitchen, how she's very strict with all these procedures. Washing after changing a nappy or blowing a child's nose or your own nose, washing your hands is a very important step. Wash your hands before eating. Wash benches, dishcloths, chopping boards, and kitchen utensils with soap and water. Separate raw and cooked foods and use different cutting boards and knives for both. And then she did talk about cooking our food. We talked about cooking foods thoroughly and the fact that heat kills most bacteria. We should cook pork, chicken, turkey, and sausages thoroughly because these are high-risk foods. When we reheat foods, it should be to at least 60 degrees Celsius until they're steaming hot. When barbecuing, carry cooked meat to the table on a clean plate and wash everything well that's been in contact with raw meat. And then she talked to us about storing food, about keeping hot foods hot, store cold foods in the refrigerator, don't leave leftover food at room temperature, cool the food quickly and put it into the fridge. She talked about cooked rice in particular. Store cooked rice in the fridge. Improperly stored cooked rice can be a cause of food poisoning. She talked about storing foods that contain eggs or milk in the refrigerator. Thawed meat can be refrozen once as long as it was defrosted in the fridge and is cooked properly when thawed again. And then how should we handle school or work lunches? She talked about lunches containing meat, egg, fish, chicken, or soft cheese being kept cool and using a plastic bottle of frozen water in lunch boxes helps. Now, for the issue of eating out, what are the best things to do? For picnics, carry food in an insulated container with an ice pack. Check that takeaway stores are clean. Check that foods are kept hot or cold, not at room temperature. And some foods are higher risk foods in terms of making you sick from eating them. Some types of food need extra care during storage, preparation, and handling, including pre-packed salads and fruit salads, pre-cooked chicken, that is, cooked chicken from shops, rare or undercooked hamburgers or sausages. Minced meat hamburgers have a high surface area for bacteria to live on, so cook them thoroughly. And cold meats. How do I need to prepare and cook food differently when I'm pregnant? We talked about the fact that it's important to be careful about food preparation and safety during pregnancy. Food poisoning is generally caused by contamination of food with certain bacteria or viruses. Sometimes it's easier to suspect food has been contaminated because it smells off or looks different to what it should. But it's not always obvious that food may not be safe. When preparing food, you should always defrost frozen meat, especially poultry, in the fridge or in the microwave. Wash your hands before preparing food and eating. Use different cutting boards for vegetables and meats. Change dishcloths frequently and cook food thoroughly. Don't eat raw or rare meats or fish, and reheat foods to at least 60 degrees Celsius. And then we did talk about some guides to food and drink during pregnancy. For cheeses, cheddar cheese, Parmesan, Stilton, pasteurized cottage cheese, pasteurized mozzarella, pasteurized cream cheese, pasteurized goat cheese, halloumi pasteurized, paneer pasteurized, and processed cheese are okay. The following cheeses are not that okay for pregnancy: brie, camembert, feta, ricotta, blue cheese, gorgonzola, chèvre, and any unpasteurized cheese. And then for eggs and other dairy products, the following are good in pregnancy: pasteurized milk, pasteurized yogurt, cooked eggs, fried eggs, scrambled eggs, quiches, and commercial mayonnaise. And not so good are unpasteurized milk and milk products, soft serve ice cream, uncooked eggs, homemade mayonnaise or Caesar dressing, homemade chocolate mousse, cake batter, and pancake batter. For meat and poultry, the following are a yes: beef, chicken, lamb, pork, sausages, mince, deli cuts such as ham, salami, only if they are cooked fresh and eaten hot and are in a low sodium variety. Hot takeaway chicken, purchased fresh and eaten hot, is also okay. Not so good for meat and poultry are cold cut meats such as ham, salami from deli, salad bar, takeaway, cold chicken or turkey from salad or sandwich shop, stuffing, pate, and meat spreads. For fish, the following have a yes: they're okay: cooked fish and seafood, shark, flake, marlin, deep sea perch, or catfish, all in moderation. And then the following have a no: raw fish, raw seafood, chilled peeled prawns, sushi, raw fish and seafood, and oysters. For fruits, vegetables, and nuts, the following are a go: whole fresh fruit, vegetables, and herbs, thoroughly washed to remove all traces of dirt, legumes such as beans, peas, and lentils, nuts unless you're allergic. And the following are not so good: raw sprouts, alfalfa, radish, mung beans, soybeans, rock melon. Be careful with prepackaged salads and fruit salads, ready-made salads from buffet and salad bars. For the drinks, we talked about the following are a go: coffee in moderation, tea in moderation, they all contain caffeine. Soft drink, limit this, be aware of the excess sugar. Juice, pasteurized milk, and mineral water. And we said a no to alcohol, unpasteurized milk, unpasteurized juice, energy drinks. And we talked about caution with herbal teas. Some of the explanation for some of the things that we're not supposed to eat in pregnancy include the fact that drinking alcohol during pregnancy has been associated with negative outcomes like low birth weight baby, premature delivery, and certain learning disabilities. There are more severe side effects that are typical of heavy drinking, that is, drinking several drinks per day. There's currently no confirmed quote unquote safe amount of alcohol to consume during pregnancy. And we recommend that the pregnant women make non-alcoholic beverage swaps for now, like toasting with sparkling cider instead of champagne. For fish, too much mercury during pregnancy can damage the baby's vision and hearing. So it's important to limit your exposure to fish containing high levels of mercury during pregnancy. As a general rule, the larger a fish is, the more likely it is to eat other fish for food, which increases the amount of mercury it contains. So we tell pregnant women, if possible, to avoid fish like swordfish, tilefish, and king mackerel, sticking to smaller fish like cod, tilapia, shrimp, and salmon. Canned tuna appears to be okay in moderation, but try to choose the chunk-like variety instead of solid albacore whenever possible. For the unpasteurized foods, it's wise during pregnancy to avoid dairy products that are unpasteurized. The pasteurization process kills harmful bacteria that can cause illness in people with vulnerable immune systems, like pregnant women. So always choose pasteurized products during pregnancy. And with respect to raw seafood and eggs, raw seafood or sushi containing raw fish can be dangerous to eat in pregnancy. It could be contaminated with all kinds of bacteria and parasites, liable to make you very ill during pregnancy. The same goes for raw or undercooked eggs. Make sure all dishes containing seafood and eggs are fully cooked, and opt for the California roll or a veggie roll at your favorite sushi place instead of the sashimi. And then for raw sprouts, they are high risk because raw alfalfa, clover, and mung bean sprouts can be breeding grounds for bacteria like E. coli and listeria. So the rule here is the same as it is for deli meat and soft cheese. If you can't cook your sprouts thoroughly, avoid them. So what about pregnancy cravings? It used to be thought that pregnancy food cravings was a sign of nutrient deficiencies in a pregnant mother's diet. However, there is no evidence to support this link. Pregnancy can cause changes in a mother's tastes, and foods once found appealing can take on a completely different flavor. Food aversions can develop during pregnancy, due in part to hormonal influence of pregnancy. So just talking further about any foods to avoid in pregnancy, we talked about some foods that have the risk of carrying specific bacteria or parasites. An infection with Listeria, Salmonella, or Toxoplasmosis when pregnant can cause serious complications to both the mother and the baby, and even increase the risk of pregnancy loss. Be very selective about the type of fish you eat during pregnancy. It's also important to check the use by, quote unquote, dates, and to make sure that the food has been stored correctly. If in doubt about the safety of a particular food, like Chef Patria also said, the safest option is to toss it. What can I drink during pregnancy? We did talk about that the safest drinks during pregnancy are water and milk. Current evidence supports the recommendation that you should avoid drinking alcohol if you are pregnant or planning a pregnancy. Even small amounts could harm a baby's development and may have lifelong effects. Water and milk are considered to be safe to drink when pregnant. Low sugar soft drinks, small amounts of juice and soda or mineral water are also fine to drink. Likewise, small amounts of caffeine in tea and coffee are thought to be safe during pregnancy. Consuming up to 200 milligrams per day during pregnancy and when breastfeeding, consuming up to 200 milligrams per day caffeine may be considered safe for both the mother and the baby. And in closing this discussion, we're looking at the recommended servings of food during pregnancy. So during pregnancy, the mother will have extra energy requirements and will need food from the 5 food groups. It's important to understand that the serving size really doesn't change, but instead the variety of food and serves per day increase to meet the mother and the baby's needs. So for the different food groups, for vegetables and legumes and beans, up to 5 serves per day. For fruit, up to 2 serves per day. For grains and cereals, mostly whole grains and high fiber cereals, up to 8 serves per day. For lean meat, fish, poultry, eggs, tofu, nuts, if you're not allergic, up to 3.5 serves per day. For milk, dairy foods, up to 3.5 serves per day. For the nutrients that are important for the mother and the developing baby, iron is important in preventing anemia in the mother. Blood volume increases during pregnancy, so increasing iron intake is necessary for optimum mother and baby health. Calcium is important for proper development of the baby's skeletal system. Omega-3 fatty acids is a kind of fat that helps with growth and development, and it's very important for fetal brain and eye development. Folic acid is important for development of the baby's spinal cord and nervous system. It is a cornerstone of pregnancy nutrition that will prevent birth defects like neural tube defects. Vitamin A is important for the baby's eyes and skin. Vitamin B complex is important for producing DNA and healthy metabolism. Vitamin D is important for bone health and development. Vitamin K is important in immune health and blood systems, such as helping with coagulation factors. And iodine is important for proper functioning of the baby's thyroid and also for how the body will store and utilize energy obtained from food. So what are the foods rich in folic acid? Avocado, asparagus, arugula, broccoli, black-eyed peas, banana, lentils, cauliflower, Brussels, papaya, okra, fruits, soybeans, and pinto beans are all foods that are rich in folic acid. What are the foods rich in vitamin A? Carrots, broccoli, potatoes, rice, garlic, plum, apricot, kale, fish, cabbage, eggs, and milk. And what are the foods rich in vitamin C? Fortified beverages, oranges, sweet potatoes, fortified cereals, kiwi fruits, black walnuts, berries, hemp seeds, chia seeds. What are the foods high in vitamin C? Acerola juice, fortified beverages, orange, sweet potatoes, fortified cereals, and kiwi fruits. What are the foods high in omega-3? Black walnuts, berries, hemp seeds, leafy greens, winter squash, beans, flaxseed, edamame, chia seeds, and brassica vegetables. And what are the foods high in iron? Dark leafy vegetables like spinach, kale, chard, arugula, beef, veal, lean meat, fish, sardines and trout, eggs, particularly egg yolk, legumes, chickpea, black beans, lentils, dried fruits like apricots, prunes, raisins, and grains and grain products like oat flakes, barley, and nuts like Indian nuts, almonds, seeds like sesame seeds, pumpkin seeds, tofu, regular farm, extra farm tofu. And what foods are rich in vitamin B complex? Fish, chicken, eggs, dairy, fortified soy milk, beans, oats, spinach, bananas, nuts, and seeds. What are the best food sources for calcium in pregnancy? We'll talk about the ones that give you very high calcium, that is more than 30% of your daily value. These are yogurt, collard greens, ricotta cheese, sardines, milk, fortified plant milk juices. And then the ones that are high in calcium, giving you 20 to 30% of your daily value, that's Greek yogurt, broccoli, mozzarella, cheddar, American cheese, and tofu. And then these contain moderate 10 to 20% of your daily value, kale, canned salmons with bones, bok choy, fortified oatmeal, and canned baked beans. And these are very low, they're low in calcium, 10% or less of your daily value. Oranges, dried figs, broccoli, parmesan, and white bread. I want to make special mention to medical students that have contributed to the research and the production of this podcast. Mehek Nankani, a third-year medical student, Chidera Akubiru, third-year medical student, and Hussein Aden, third-year medical students. We want to recognize these students and thank them for their contribution towards the production of this episode. Thank you. Also, we want to thank our other team members in the background, Ms. Lindley Gibbs, Mr. Elijah Hawkins, and Ms. Adriana Coleman. Thank you. So we were very fortunate to have Chef Patria Cunningham Barrett talk to us about how to prepare and cook food differently because of pregnancy. Please tune in to the upcoming episodes to listen to her talk. Thank you very much for listening to Cocoa Pod's podcast today.